Capcom Pro Tour held its last tournament for the year last weekend and has set the stage for the Capcom Cup in 3 weeks. Here to go over all the details from the last tournament and looking ahead to the Capcom Cup is esports journalist and friend of the show, Amanda Stevens. Amanda, it's always great to have you on our show.
What's up, Amanda?
Hey, there we go.
There we go.
You good? Yes, yes. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Yourselves?
Good, good, good. All right, so North America Regional Finals was the final event of the year for the Capcom Pro Tour, with Hot Dog 29 winning the Open Super Premier and NuckleDu winning NARF. Walk us through these two wins and what each means for each individual to secure the final wins of the 2019 season.
So we'll start with Hot Dog. So Hot Dog is one of our Bison players on the tour, and it's really great to see him sort of have this breakout year this year. I'm not 100% on all of his finishes off the top of my head, but he has had like a pretty standout year. And so, winning NARF gives him, let's see, I can pull it up now, puts him solidly in fifth. He did well at SIA. He did well at EVO, CEO. Came in second in DreamHack Dallas. So like a pretty solid year, and winning NARF gave him a significant number of points to sort of put him straight in where he needed to be for the Capcom Cup this year. When it comes to NuckleDu is sort of the Capcom Cup's one of their like standby players. So like every year, NuckleDu is at the Capcom Cup, there to do business, and so it's pretty great to see him once again. He was already set by points. This just kind of gave him a little bit of a higher ranking for the Capcom Cup. But year in and year out, NuckleDu finds his way into the Capcom Cup, and maybe this might be a good year for him to top 8 again. I don't see him winning, but it definitely is like a decent cap to the year. He has the Street Fighter League. His team came in second last season, and this season, I think they finished like top 3. It's just a great year for Du, and another Capcom Cup appearance is not bad at all.
We now have the 31 players that will be in the Capcom Cup. Which players and storylines have piqued your interest from this group?
All right, so we have our 31 players, and obviously one of the first people I definitely want to talk about is Zenith. The reason I want to bring up Zenith is because he is one of the players that Sherry Genix has been helping out with the eFight Pass. Which is a program that helps players from regions that have trouble getting visas, helping them, handle all of that visa situation. So seeing him, his first year sort of being not sponsored, I guess, by eFight Pass, qualifying for the Capcom Cup, I think is really great. And it shows just like how powerful being a part of the FGC can be when the community rallies behind a program like the eFight Pass. So I'm super happy for him. I think another player that you have to look at this year is Infectious. Infectious, became a part of Team Cygames Beast, and if this year the guy has just been destroying the tour wherever he shows up. He top 8 at EVO. He won. Man, I'm behind. He came second at EGX. Third at EVO, 7th at Fight Club, 7th at Celtic Throwdown, first at an online event for Europe West. Every event he's like physically gone to, with a few exceptions, he's like top 8'd. So I will not be surprised if this guy shows up at the Capcom Cup and sort of does it again. I'm putting him as like my dark horse for winning, but I won't actually put money on it.
Can't put money on that. Well, it's great that there's programs like eFight Pass that are creating opportunities and helping with opportunities with players being able to place. But speaking of that, there's still one more spot in the Capcom Cup with the last chance qualifier. What major players are on the outside looking in, and who do you think will ultimately take the LCQ spot? You gonna put your money on that?
There's some names that didn't qualify for the Cup that have been sort of like names that you expect to be there every year. So, Itazan didn't make it in. GamerB, Takamura, Haitani, Zhao Hai. These are some names that like year in and year out you sort of expect to be at the Capcom Cup that aren't in yet. Now, right now, some of those names haven't signed up for the last chance qualifiers, so I'm not going to make an assumption that they are. There's a high chance that they are going to be. But based on people who are already sort of registered for the Capcom Cup, for the LCQ, I'm gonna give it to Samurai. Now, I'll get to another player in a second, but when we talk about Samurai, Samurai's had an explosive year. While his Capcom Pro Tour finishes haven't been, some of the best, here in North America, Samurai is having sort of a breakout year. He's the Seattle representative for Street Fighter for the Red Bull Conquest Tour. He sort of has shown people in the SFL this year that, you cannot sleep on him. This guy has won multiple matches for his team, single-handedly breezing through some of the best players in North America. We're talking players like Punk, Knuckle Dew, right? IDOM. These players who, are known on the tour, and Samurai is taking names. And when he's in events where I think, I'm not going to say that the LCQ is going to be soft by any stretch of the imagination, but when some of those bigger names, right, Bonchan, Punk, Dew, Gachikun, when those big names aren't around, I think that's a place for Samurai to shine. Mm-hmm. I'd also, pun not intended, not intentional segue, I think Shine's also another player who, benefited a lot from the SFL this year. And I really see a potential for him to have another breakout performance here at the LCQ. He's definitely another player that I would put my eyes on because unlike Samurai, Shine has done well on the Capcom Pro Tour since being in the SFL. It's really interesting to see that for North America, the SFL has really been this sort of boosting point for a lot of these players that, were on the cusp of greatness last year, that, getting to play with some of the top consistently has sort of elevated their status. So I wouldn't be surprised to see either Samurai or Shine take down the LCQ based on the people who are registered right now.
Okay, and so the Capcom revealed Street Fighter V Champion Edition after the tournament ended. Can you give us a brief summary of what was revealed and how it will change things up for the future of Street Fighter V?
So, real quick, I'll make this as quick as possible. Championship Edition is going to basically give people a way to buy all of Street Fighter V's DLC in one nice, neatly wrapped package. Stages, costumes, all the characters, Gil plus a mystery character. So we don't know, we know a little bit about Gil, and we also have seen Gil in other Street Fighters. But the really cool thing about Champion Edition is that we're getting a second V skill. For those of you that don't know, there's this little red bar above on the screen for characters that fills up when they take damage. That sort of is that their V skill. Their V skill is the way that they can charge that up outside of taking damage. Every character is going to get a new V skill option, which, we saw this year when they added, new V triggers, how much that drastically changed some characters and gave characters some new options. So it's going to be really interesting to see how those new V skills, allow people to have a little bit more creativity and options in the way that they play their specific characters. Mm-hmm. We just had revealed Ryu's V skill earlier today. And it looks really cool. It looks like, when it's timed properly, it can also be used for a counter and then to, have follow-up damage come in afterwards. So I'm hoping that not every single V skill is sort of, this sort of offensive option. I'm hoping that some people who are lacking defense get a more defense-oriented V skill. But we saw, like I said, this year how much a second V trigger changed some characters on the tier list. So I wouldn't be surprised if adding V skills will do the same thing.
Now I'm going to ask you the ultimate question. Who do you think is going to take the Capcom Pro Cup this year?
I hate doing this because, we don't know who the LCQ player is, and that sort of affects the bracket a lot more than people think. For example, when Nemo became the LCQ winner, he went through the bracket pretty hard and sort of shaked up a lot of people's expectations. So this is the hardest job. I'm actually going to go with the super safe answer, and I know I've tended to give some pretty spicy answers in the past, but I'm going to have to give it to Bonchan. Bonchan has had an incredible year on the Capcom Pro Tour. This has probably been his best year yet. Granted, he's behind Punk in points, but he did win EVO. He has sort of proven himself to be somewhat of a demon for Punk. And when you have to weigh, sort of that holy trinity of Punk, Bonchan, Takedo, the 3-point leaders, you kind of look at people like Fujimura too. Bonchan has sort of shown that he can do very well against these people. So I'm going to have to go with the super safe answer. And like I said earlier, though, there's a couple people that I think could really tear it up. I think Infectious could very easily take it. Second place at Evo, Big Bird, I think, is another person who also has a very strong chance of winning it. And I'm never going to count out people like Fujimura. So if you put a gun to my head, it's Bonchan. But those other names, I wouldn't be surprised if, after that week in December, if one of them wins. Don't be too surprised. And you'll definitely see those names in the top 8, without a doubt.
Well, we're definitely going to see who's going to be shaking it up, as well as rise to the top. Amanda, it's always great to have you on the show. And hopefully, when we find out who is victorious, we're going to have you back on.
Sure.